I get a lot of young people that ask me, why don't you use a drone? Why don't you use a drone? It's so much cheaper. Just use a drone. And my usual answer is my drone seats four people.
Hi, I'm Randy Vance. Today I'm here with Icom America's Tales from Channel 16, the VHF radio that's the official radio of Boating Magazine's cover shoots. Today we have a guest, Tom King, one of the foremost, most experienced, and sought-after marine photographers in the industry. We want to have a conversation about how his work has influenced marine photography over the decades. Tom, thanks for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
So how much of your work involves boat-to-boat photography?
Well, a great deal. In my later career, we shoot boat to boat or helicopter to boat or float in the water and let the boat go by. But my primary business is boat photography these days.
How long have you been doing this?
A little bit scary to say this, but it seems to add up to 45 years.
I think it's got to be every bit of that. I've worked with you for nearly 25, and I knew you were a name that I knew long before I started working for you or with you. So the big part about photography, from my observation over the years, is there's an incredible need to communicate between the shooter, the skipper or the pilot, and the boat that is the subject boat. How do you all do that?
Well, it starts with pre-planning and sitting down at a picnic table before you do anything and make sure everybody understands what we're trying to do and agrees. But then once you're on the water, we have radios, often Icom radios that we use. And the helicopter pilot, for instance, has the frequency in his headset. I'm speaking about my favorite helicopter pilot. Paul Barsa equipped his helicopter to be the ultimate boat shooting tool. We talk over the ICOM radios.
I've been in the subject boat a time or two while you were shooting, and it's shocking to me how well you can actually hear the VHF radio with ICOM's sound cancellation system on board. It's pretty crazy.
It works great. I talk to Paul, and then he talks directly to the driver. A lot of times we'll head out the inlet and say we're going to go this way, and then you get out there and the seas are running a little different than you thought. You got to change direction, or where the girl's sitting in the boat, you can't even see her, so we got to move her where she shows up.
Tales from Channel 16 is brought to you by Icom America, clearly the most reliable choice in professional quality marine communications, and the makers of the new ICM 510BB black box radio with 3 command mic ports and a playback and receive feature, so you never have to ask the caller to repeat again. We were talking with Paul earlier about the comparison between drone aerial photography and camera aerial photography. It just seems much flatter from a drone than when you shoot.
Well, I look at them as two different tools, and they're both good tools, and you use them in the appropriate places. I get a lot of young people that ask me, why don't you use a drone? Why don't you use a drone? It's so much cheaper. Just use a drone. And there's so many things you can do being in the helicopter and looking through the camera and directing the people and the pilot and everything you're doing, and you can still hold a much higher resolution camera in your hands and operate it than you can fly on a drone. So my usual answer is my drone seats four people.
Well, one thing I remember from years back is that tower and boom on your boat became an important spin-off in the marine industry. Tell me about that.
It happened at a water ski magazine, sister magazine to boating, boat test, and the early wakeboarders trying to learn aerial, inverts, acrobatics, somehow figured out that if they tied the rope to the top of my tower, rather than the rope pulling them down, it was pulling them up and helping them. A year later, maybe, I went to a wakeboarder's house early one morning for a photo shoot, and his brother had a fishing boat and he had a inboard, more of a ski boat. And I'm like, why did you put your brother's fishing tower on your ski boat? And he's like, well, it's not his, it's the one we made, but it was after riding behind your boat. We figured if we put a tower on our wakeboard boat, it'd be easier to do moves. And then a few years later, I happened to mention this whole thing to the president of one of my clients, one of the leading wakeboard companies. And the next thing I know, a lawyer's calling to depose me in a court case involving who needed to pay royalties to who for wakeboard towers. I guess if I had been smart, I would have patented it and collected whatever royalties there were back in the day. But we didn't think that way. We were just trying to improve the writing, and we would do it for photo shoots. But back then, there was no such thing as a selfie. And so we had no photos of us actually doing what we did with the tower, or the lawsuit might have turned out differently.
It's almost scary the way technology has improved in many ways and just changed the way we do things. And now we're on the verge of AI that nobody has any idea where that's going to take. Visual.
I'm glad I'm in the later phases of my career, not a young photographer needing to, spend a lot of money on equipment and figure out how to pay for it and make some profit someday. It's changed the photography business tremendously.
Tom, thanks for being with us today. This is Randy Vance with Icom America's Tales from Channel 16. Tales from Channel 16 are brought to you by Icom America, the makers of world-class VHF marine communications equipment and the official VHF radio of Boating Magazine's cover shoots.